So Joe Flacco's the new backup quarterback for the Colts. We know that. He's signed. We got to talk to him today. Got to listen to him. Got to figure out kind of a little bit about who he is and what he thinks he can do for this team. And I got to tell you the truth, I was a little bit wrong about Joe Flacco. I always thought he was kind of this bland, stoic kind of guy. As it turns out, he's kind of thoughtful. He's very funny. I like Joe Flacco. I think that anybody that can bring levity into a meeting room, like a quarterback room, bring, I don't know how many years of insight. He's actually older than Shane Steichen. I think it winds up being a really, really good thing. And so, very impressive. Not a guy who walked into the media room and said, all right, blah, 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 blah. No, he's very thoughtful, and I think he enjoyed the process, and I think he is a guy who does what he enjoys. He loves football. He enjoys playing. He enjoys practicing, and so he's going to do it as long as he can. It's kind of an inspirational story. This is a guy who doesn't want to let go. He doesn't want to move on to what's next. So he's right here doing this.
Yeah, I was fully committed. I've been fully committed to playing. I mean, I haven't really thought about not playing football. So, yeah, to answer that for sure, I'm excited to be on a team and have a idea of what the next couple months are going to look like. What was the second part of that?
Just like what having those various opportunities coming off the heels. Last season I guess it was probably nice to be wanted, right?
Listen, I mean, it was obviously a little bit different than last offseason, where I didn't get any calls at all. But even this offseason, I mean, I thought I wasn't really sure how it was going to go. It wasn't like I played a ton of games last year or anything like that. But definitely grateful for Indy to reach out and have this as an opportunity.
What were your discussions? What are your expectations here with the young quarterback already on the roster?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I've kind of been in this role for a handful of years now. Obviously, last year was a little bit different because I wasn't anywhere. I was able to come in and play pretty quickly. But yeah, it's just about being in the room with him and a lot of conversations naturally come up when you spend so much time together in a room. So it's just kind of, I think, being able to bring the experience and being able to help him simplify things and go out there and play fast and use his skill set the way he wants to.
You got traded, I think, mid-season when you were in Philly. That still gave you a lot of time with Shane. What's that relationship like, and what you learned about him in that time?
Yeah, Shane's great, and I think he does some pretty cool stuff offensively, and gives the quarterback a really good chance to play his best football. So that's probably the most exciting thing about being here with him.
Joe, again, you said you still want to play. And last year when you weren't getting calls, did you think maybe this is done? Or did you never let your mind go?
Yeah, I was optimistic that I was going to get a call early on, over the summer. I figured I'd go through training camp and all that, but I figured once the season started, at some point I would get a call. And to be honest with you, it was right around that point that I ended up getting a call that I was probably starting to have a little bit of doubt that it was going to actually happen. So yeah, it creeps in, I guess, a little bit just because I was actually sitting at home last year.
You were on your couch.
Yeah, apparently. It's interesting. I think I've been through enough off seasons to kind of keep myself focused on what the task at hand is, and so I've been able to kind of. Last year, I was able to just kind of carry that through the summer and into the fall, and not actively think about the fact that I wasn't with somebody. I had enough stuff that I was doing on a daily basis to kind of keep me just focused on doing that, and a little bit distracted from the fact that I wasn't really where I want to be. So it definitely makes it a little bit easier this year, kind of not having to worry about all that, and actually be with somebody, get to be part of the team a little bit earlier than last year. So
what keeps you doing this? Where I hope I phrase this right, but you've been a Super Bowl winning quarterback, you've been in a much different role in your career. You know what your role is generally at this point in your career. You can decide to do something else, right?
I don't know what else that would be.
But
when you have something you
gotta
love,
get up every day, come here, do work, and what keeps you doing it?
When you have something that you love to do and you enjoy putting in the work and all that, I don't know too many people that would give that up to try to go do something else or figure out what else that may be. I have no idea what else that would be. And one day we'll figure that out, but I'm not really, not really ready to kind of go figure out what else that may be that I love to do, especially when I'm going to be given an opportunity to still do what I love to do. Having 5 kids at home also kind of pushes me in the direction of coming back here and doing those things, I'm sure. So, yeah.
Do you think any, like, just the player that Anthony could be, who he is right now, and just the talent level that he possesses, being such a unique, physically different player?
Yeah, I think we all see, you all see what kind of athlete he is and what kind of arm he has and all those types of things. So that's why I just said earlier, like, for me being here, it's teaching him how to simplify and play fast and use those tools, as opposed to, trying to process maybe certain things that you don't really need to worry about, and then you go out there and you're not even able to use your skill set the way you want to, and you kind of slow yourself down a little bit. So I think we see the athlete he is, the arm he has, the talent that he has. So as long as he can utilize those skills and play in a fast and efficient manner, then I think, the sky's the limit.
You said you had 5 kids at home. What's your oldest?
11.
When do you want to work?
Has the age difference between you and some of these players? You're older than the coach.
I know, I think it's honestly been. It wasn't until a couple of years ago that I realized, man, like I'm actually older than these guys now. Like, I don't view it that way, but you can see that when they look at me, I can see in their eyes that they're like a little bit kind of thrown off by what's going on. And it didn't dawn on me right away, but all of a sudden it did. It's like, holy, they're looking at me because they're wondering what I'm still doing here, how I am this old, whatever it may be. But in my experience with that, it's honestly been able to. I think it's really cool for the relationships. I'm very open and animated, like when you get me in the cafeteria and we're sitting around a table and stuff like that, and you can kind of get me going. And I think some of the young guys, like, it's just cool to, probably have a perspective from a 39-year-old that really thinks he's 25, doesn't see any difference between himself and all the other guys in the locker room, but they see it. I think it's led to a lot of really cool relationships, and that's what's so special about being inside a locker room, is you have guys from all over, all different ages, and it keeps you young for sure.
Do they know you? Do you think they know who you are, the young guys?
A couple years ago, I was probably like, I don't know, maybe they didn't. My experience has been like, especially like, I would say yes, at this point they know, because even the kids that are my kids' age, they kind of knew, especially because my kids went to school with them, but they didn't really. But after playing last year at the end of the season, I went home and I was going to my kids' basketball games, and now all of a sudden there was a bunch of kids coming up to me and like knowing who I was. So at this point, I'm sure the 20-some-year-olds kind of know who I am.
What was last season like for you to experience, just going from not having an opportunity to all of a sudden, the success you had getting into the playoffs? What did that kind of do for where you were in your career?
I think the whole piece of it where I wasn't playing in the beginning and then got signed, I mean, obviously that's pretty surreal. Like, you go from being at home 1 week to 2 weeks later you're playing meaningful football games. But for me, it was just kind of, it gave me a chance to get back in that mode of like playing football and winning and having fun. And I went into it with a different perspective than I had ever probably had before, but it just reminded you how much fun it is to play this game, especially when you're in meaningful positions.
So were you surprised that Cleveland, that you're here and not in Cleveland after the way you played?
Yeah, probably a little bit, but not a ton. I've been around obviously long enough to know that you probably shouldn't expect something to happen or anything like that, because you never know how it's going to turn out.
You said, I think there were some quotes that I saw from you in the past where you were like, look, I'm not here to be somebody's mentor, which I'm sure like that's a competitor in you saying, like, I'm here to do my job. You do seem like come to embrace that role a little bit, right, over the years? Is there anything
Well,
to that, or?
it's just one of those questions that you guys are going to nail me for either
Yeah.
way, you know. And it's like
I get it.
I really don't believe that's the job of a backup quarterback. You know, I think that happens naturally as you become part of the team, and like I said, you're in that room, and you are going to obviously do that.
Okay.
I've proven to be, I think, as far as I'm concerned, a good teammate, and I think that's the most important. And those kind of things happen naturally, but it's not like, it's not like you're going to sit there and hold people's hands and do different types of things. You have relationships with people, just like you do every single team you're on. And listen, I've gotten in trouble in the past. That's why this is such a touchy subject, because you can write whatever you want about it. Like if you want to roast me, then you can say, "Oh, Joe doesn't want to be a mentor." Or if you don't want to, then you can kind of put it in a different context. I don't know if my mindset's any different on the fact, like, I think every quarterback in this league sees themselves as somebody that wants to be on the field and wants to play. And I think that's probably the best mindset to go in there and help somebody with, because if I wasn't interested in that in some way, then how engaged would I be in the meetings? How much would I be able to help him? I think when you constantly have to be of that thought process that I may be in there the next play, you completely engage yourself in every situation that you're in. And that's also when questions arise, or when you see something that you've been through before, you can put it in a very simple way. I think that's one of the biggest things about playing quarterback and being able to survive in this league a long time, is to be able to simplify things. Because at the end of the day, it's just football. Like, we can complicate this thing a lot, but the guys that go out there and play well, they're playing fast because they're not, they're either naturally doing it, or they're just kind of simplifying it to the point where they don't have to worry about every tiny little thing, and they can't process anything at all. So I think I can bring a lot of that to the meeting room for sure. And the end goal is to win a lot of football games here, and I want to be a part of that in any way I can.
And I'm not going to roast you day one. So
Yeah.
What's your first take on this roster, first blush, and how prepared this team is to win on any?
I've been trying to ask around a little bit, like, hey, how do we feel about this? How do we feel about that? Because I honestly don't know too much. I do know that this was a team that was one game away from being a playoff team last year. I was sitting around watching the Colts play the Texans last year, and I was like, all right, who do we want to win this game? What do we want? I didn't really know. So yeah, that's what I know. I know this is a team that's probably, from knowing Shane, they're well coached, and they have the ability to be a playoff team and really make a run at it. So.
What kind of challenge do you think there will be to backing up a quarterback with Anthony's skill set as much as he's going to be used as a runner? Is that as complicated as it seems, or is there crossovers? You guy can maybe run a little bit of his own read?
Listen, obviously there's different skill sets there, but you still understand what they're trying to accomplish in terms of certain plays that he's going to run. So like, if you're asking, like, can I still give some insight on some of those plays? I still think I can, because even though I might not be doing those things, I think I still have the ability to probably process and decide what the right thing to do is, and what you have to look at versus what you don't have to look at. Now, I mean, that's probably more a question for the coaching staff in terms of, like, what this guy does versus what that guy does. But obviously it was a little bit different last year too, with Anthony and with Gardner, so I think as a player, you just want some direction as to what you're going to do, and you go out there and you do it to the best that you can within the parameters that they give you, and that's what you want to do.
Gardner talked last year about coming in to compete, that being the best way to get Anthony to kind of raise up that, the more he competed, the more Anthony would beat that. Is that the way the best quarterback rooms you've been a part of work?
Yeah, listen, you always want to go out there, like, every single practice is super important to go out there and show what you have. My biggest thing when I come to new teams, or even when new guys come and you're on the same team, is you want to prove to the locker room that you can play. because that's how you become part of the team. Like everybody sees, oh man, this guy can play. This guy can help us win if he needs to do that. So you're competing with yourself every single day to be the best that you can, and I think that naturally just kind of, it rubs off on people. You learn how to work, and you become the best you can. Okay, a couple more.
Just for you, what's left to chase? Like, you've been to the pinnacle, right? And you've had a lot of success in your career, but is there a certain maybe levity to just playing and maybe not, okay, I've accomplished so much and now I can just go out there and just play, or how do you view it?
Early in my career, I tell people this. You kind of look at guys that have been around a long time, and you're like, man, like it must be nice being around for 10 years. They probably don't even get nervous for games anymore, and it's just never happens. This game always means a ton. Every time that you take that practice field, you have a certain feeling. Every time that you go out there and play a game, you have a certain feeling that you get, and you just want to go play. You want to play the best you can and do it for yourself and do it for your teammates, and it really never changes. I don't care what you've accomplished or what you haven't. You want to go out there and you want to do your best, and you want to be able to look at yourself in the mirror at night and know that you did everything that you could to go out there and do the best you can, whether that's practice or games. The fire still burns to go out there and be better than you were the day before, the year before, whatever it may be.
That's Joe Flacco, likable guy, right? Backup quarterback. You hope you never see him take a snap, but he hopes to take snaps, and he just loves the game. He loves the process. He wants to go to practice and get that feeling that we're here to get better a little bit today. I like the part where he's talking about being a 39-year-old man who thinks he's 25 and communicates like that with teammates, and understood that they started looking at him a little bit funny, a little bit different. And that's a part of aging that I think we all go through, that all of a sudden, like, people aren't looking at you in the same way and experiencing you in the same way that you're experiencing them. That was interesting to me. I like Joe Flacco.